doing this completely independently using pre-programmed logic and real-time sensor inputs to decide its actions. And the autonomy here highlights Atlas's ability to carry out repetitive.
I think that's really interesting, where it's showing the ability for it to learn and adapt and kind of correct when it's doing something wrong. I wonder how much. I mean, obviously, this is still a demo. Like, ideally, in the workplace, you have more precision than that because you can see how it, because it's so strong and what it's moving is so heavy. It seems to try to put it in with a lot of force, which doesn't seem too safe. But the point here that's really interesting to me is that it is able to identify where it's operating incorrectly and then learn based on that. So it connects to our conversation about intelligence and how this has a functional knowledge of what it's supposed to do. That it not only knows what it's supposed to do, but it knows how it's supposed to do it and how to correct its behavior if it can't do it correctly.
Robots.
I love you.
Their workforce. Now, this model has been trained on a large data set of images.
So it talks about how, if you haven't already been paying attention, Amazon has a lot of robots in its workforce as it is. From the videos I've seen of Amazon's warehouses, the robots that are part of their workforce are still not doing, the majority of the tasks are still done by people because a lot of them require like the complex movement that this robot's showing here. So I think it's kind of, regardless of how much robots have already been adopted in the workplace, this feels like a foreshadowing of a pretty big replacement of people in the workforce, more so than I feel like it's already than I feel like has already occurred. Like the Amazon robots that I've seen just look like big Roombas. I don't know.
To recognize and understand the different components of the environment visually. The machine learning model gives Atlas the ability to differentiate between different objects, such as bins, containers, or other environmental elements. Now, detect and localize essentially means that identifying objects like bins or containers within its environment, and localizing, which is what they said in the description, basically just means that determining their exact positions in three-dimensional space. And this is really critical because Atlas must not only know what the objects are, but also understand where they are in relation to itself so it can move toward them or interact with them effectively. Now, of course, these environment angle for approaching the object and how to adapt to irregularities, which we see later on. And this helps to ensure that Atlas can pick up and carry objects securely without damaging them or dropping them. Now, dynamic, you've got things like tools, containers.
And I'd already talked about this a little bit earlier, but and also linked it back to the intelligence discussions that we've had, but both here and where we've been talking about large language models like ChatGPT, I think that the proof of, especially ChatGPT being intelligent, is that ability to adapt to dynamic states. And like, as we've all experienced using it, it can deal with anything that you throw at it pretty much. And I personally think that qualifies for intelligence completely.
Or even other workers that could move unexpectedly.
One last thought on that first video. I don't know if I misheard him, because the way he talked about it after, it didn't seem like that was what he said, but he had mentioned that people noticed that the way like this robot was so human, and it seemed like they were compromising some of its effectiveness by making it so human. Um, and I think that like I can see where that criticism could be made, because if it was on wheels, I feel like that would be a lot easier for it to do. If it was just one arm and it didn't need that second arm. But I think that the value of having it be so humanoid, and the reason that it's worth, sacrificing some of those inefficiencies, like the fact that it had to walk instead of roll, is that this one piece of hardware is now so versatile that it can do literally anything that a human can do. And you can place it in any of the environments that a person would have to work. So I think that's kind of the answer to that question. He seemed to he answered kind of a different question after bringing that up, which confused me. But anyway.
So you've probably seen this robot before. Pilots. Boston Dynamics is hoping that a lot of the time, Spot won't need a driver at all. For more complicated tasks, you can chain waypoints together, sending Spot to retrace a path it walked through earlier with human assistance. It's really fun to watch this kind of robot do these precise movements, particularly if you have 10 or...
It's interesting how much more precise this robot is than the other one. I'm going to guess the other one's a whole lot heavier, just considering it was able to move those engine covers like they were, a piece of plastic. But I wonder what like a hybrid of those two would look like, just considering this is so much more agile and dexterous.
15 of them in unison. It's not hard to imagine 50 Spots dancing Pikachu style in a theme park. Right now, Boston are pretty tightly controlled spaces.
So I'm actually from Massachusetts, and a lot of like commuting distance from Boston. My dad had a kid a couple of years ago whose dad, the kid's dad, worked on Spot and brought, or maybe it was the earlier version of Spot, but my dad sent me a video a couple of years ago of this thing walking into the classroom, which was really funny.
For now, Spot's really just a platform, a stable base where partners can build new modules and new software skills. Once people start building on that platform, Spot's going to get smarter fast. And we may start seeing robots in places we never expected.